to this next section. This is disablers and manipulators. This section is a support system to everything that you've learned so far. Remember, the man stoppers are the prime targets that you're going to use. Those are the only guarantees. This support system now are techniques that will cause pain, that will stun somebody, disable them, or move them or manipulate them in a certain manner. Either to finish the fight or to set you up for the big man-stopping targets that we've done earlier on. So we've got to look at these in a different light to what we've done previously. So in fighting, where two people are engaged in some type of combat, this is where these manipulators and disablers will come into play. Now remember, as I mentioned earlier on, the mindset is important when we deliver these. It's going to be your intention, and that bad intention is what we're looking to use. So what you may lack in skill, you can put in and make up to with that aggression to finish the fight no matter what. And this is where the military came from. Their idea was to develop lots and lots of aggressive attitude and a win-win situation, so that they never felt they were going to lose. So no matter what their skills were, they were going to drive it through. So like I said, this is different to martial arts, where they sort of treat their training almost as a religion. This is a different thing altogether. All we're looking for is a hardcore technique. So as one well-noted hand-to-hand combat instructor said, if you're looking for art, take up painting. You know, we're talking about fighting, and that's the difference, and that's what we're looking at today now. Alright, starting with the head, we're going to again look at these secondary target areas. The first area is the ears. Now, we're going to look at these in a couple of different ways. We're going to start with some strikes to this area. The first strike that we're going to use from close quarter is your cupped hands, and they will strike over both eardrums in this fashion here. We're looking to trap air inside the ear canals and cause that unbalance. Now sometimes you may actually gain a knockout with this target area, but it's not a high percentage one, so we can't guarantee that, but we can certainly stop somebody in their tracks. So from here, bang, that double clap, which can set you up nicely for that knockout shot if you're going to use the headbutt to follow it. Now, the slaps can be done individually as well. That slight cup on the hand, I'm going to move across and drive my full body weight through the eardrum. And you see, I'm not just slapping it with my hand, my full body is going to contact and hit that particular target area. And it also can be done in a reverse fashion, this way round, where we're driving and hitting the ear, coming across. So the arm needs to feel heavy. Just like a lead weight on the end there, and this strike will rip across and hit the ear. So we've got the double from the front, and we've got these singles striking this way, and also this fashion. And also we can use the ears to manipulate and to control somebody. So from the front, if I've got both hold of the ears, I'm going to get a nice tight hold so that I can manipulate the head. So I can take somebody to the floor straight away. So within real life combat, it's say different to grappling arts where you might have a jacket or a gi or something like this. What we're going to look for is natural handles on the body that we can create pain with and take somebody straight to the floor. So here we can drive down, turn the head, or to pull it forward. So we've got danger of actually damaging or tearing the ears. So these again are great techniques to control. One hand we can grip and squeeze, pull the ear down, or finishing shots with the knees, all those big strikes that we looked at earlier on. Now if we grab hold of the ear for control, your complete palm goes over the eardrum and your fingers come behind, then you latch on. So this grip is really strong. So if Jake's trying to pull away from it, he's actually pulling his ear away, and there's a danger of ripping it. Then you can step back in for those finishing shots that we spoke about earlier on. So the ears are a great target area to manipulate and control somebody straight away. The next target areas are the eyes. They follow straight in, and we'll have a look at those in a second. Alright, attached to the eyes. Now again, this is secondary targets. When you attack the eyes, it doesn't always mean you're going to do lasting damage to them. Most of the time, people will instinctively shut their eyes or blink. So anything coming towards the eyes, they will blink and their eyelids will shut. So you don't always drive your fingers into the eyes, as some people would presume. So anything towards the eyes will momentarily make the person flinch. It will make their eyes water and it will take their vision away. Now if that does that for a blind second, then that's enough to get in the strike that you're looking for. So if my hand just covered Jay's eyes for a blind second and that one come in and hit him in the throat, then I've achieved the job. So I'm attacking the eyes in an indirect fashion in that case. So let's have a look at some of the strikes to the eyes that will work high percentage. In close, in grappling, it's always going to be double the thumbs. And all I'm doing is pressing them against the eyes themselves. So even if the eyes are shut, you push in against them and it's really, really painful building up pressure. So it doesn't all have to be a lethal finish, but it can be one that causes a great deal of pain. So as soon as we're grappling close, those thumbs are coming straight to the target area that I'm looking for, pushing the head back, which may then open it for one of those big finishers that we looked at earlier on. If I can grip hold of the head, I'm going to set up this particular thumb strike here. So this looks like a punch, but the thumb is stuck out through the corner. So you drive that straight forward and in. This is a really dangerous strike, and again favoured and used a lot in close quarter by a lot of military groups. So we're in and driving through. So we protect the fist, but the thumb sticks out at the end for the finish. Again, if I can grab hold of the back of the head, this makes sure that the person doesn't pull away from the strike. This is quite ineffective if the person moves away. It's better when it's thrown in from close range for the finish, and then you can follow it up with one of those big strikes that we mentioned earlier on. Also, once more in this grappling range, we can hook with one thumb, which manipulates and turns the head. See how I've got behind him again? So if I'm going to come into one of the chokes that we've done earlier on, this is a good way of setting him up. So from close, turn, using the thumb to manipulate the head around, and then we can come in and get into the choke if we want to do it. From this range, it's difficult to attack the eyes effectively. See things like thrusting with your fingers, etc. It's not effective. What we need to do is to be able to strike using fingered claws and jabs. Here, because your speed will come in, and again it makes the guy flinch back. If it's enough to pull his head back so you can follow in with something more powerful, then you've done the job. So we're going to keep those hands open. So all those open hand techniques, whether it be those palm heel or now the claws, will get the man on the back foot, get his hands up, expose other target areas that we can come in and attack secondary. And from here, this way, straight down the middle. You can lead hand, you can use your rear hand. And once you get your speed, then attack the face fast. And then you can follow in with a heavier strike to finish. And those are the most effective ways of attacking the eyes. In close with the thumbs, a little bit further away where we're going to use the hand claws, using speed to rake the face and the eyes and get a reaction to find an opening for a bigger strike. Right, the next target area is the nose. Again, this is a secondary target area. You're not likely to stop somebody completely in their tracks with a strike, because again, if they're fired up and they want to fight you back, they'll walk through this. But it will open up targets for other major strikes. So let's have a look at how we're going to strike this target area. The palm heel is one of the best ways to strike the nose. We're going to hit it up from underneath here, which is the philtrum. So the top lip and the base of the nose. I'm going to step in and drive upwards, driving the nose up. Now, there's a little bit of a sort of martial arts myth about if you do this, you drive the bones of the nose into the brain. You know, if you actually look at the structure of the head, that's an impossibility. The nasal bones are made out of thin cartilage, and they're not going to penetrate the skull. Every time you sneeze, you'd be frightened to death that you're going to kill yourself. So, you know, it's a fallacy. What we're going to do is hit there, so it will hit the frontal lobe between the eyes and it will give you that bit of a stun and disablement. So again, I'm stepping in and climbing up in this fashion here underneath the nose. Also, we can use the hammer fist to come down onto the bridge of the nose, directly between the eyes, smashing downwards. So different feeling altogether. Now we're hitting that cartilage on the top of the bridge of the nose. So it drives downwards this way, where before the palm heel punches upwards. But both guaranteed ways, again, of disabling somebody and attacking the face and that nose area. One more we're going to look at is more of a controlling, manipulating move than a finisher. And I'm going to come from behind for this, and my hand will come up and come back. So the bone edge of my hand is underneath his nose and his upper lip. And I'm going to crush that backwards here, which puts extreme pressure on the nose and the upper lip. And that gains control straight away. I come around, forearm goes into the upper lip and the nose, and I squeeze this down and pull him back. Yeah. You can do this to control. I'm not going to do this on Jake's face, but if you imagine this was around and against his nose, or you can do it to pull directly back, which will crush the nose and bring him directly to the floor. So again, in and drive backwards, and this gives you complete control and take the person down to the floor. Alright, so those three target areas, ears, nose and eyes, are secondary target attacks. These are going to back up anything else that you do. Remember, they're not guaranteed stoppers, but you will certainly get a reaction depending on really how serious this person is of fighting and attacking you and keep fighting back. So we slap the ears, we had the single ear slaps, we had the gripping of the ear. Where we put the palm on, we latch the fingers behind, and then we pull downwards, keeping the arm nice and tight to the body, so if Jake tries to pull his head away, he's only going to cause more damage. So we're not grabbing it with the fingers, it's the complete palm and closing your fist around it so that you completely envelop that ear, so if he pulls his head, it's going to damage it. Thumbs to the eyes, we went through these sequences, taking them round so we got behind it. And those long range claw strikes to the eyes, front and rear hand. Remember to get the person's reaction, maybe to get them cover up or flinch away to open up a bigger strike. And the nose, palm heel. Hammer fist driving down, and we come behind with this rear nose bar driving back and crushing the nose and the upper lip. Those three target areas on the upper gates, or at the neck and head, are the main target areas to manipulate. We're going to move on now and look at some other areas on the body. Alright, the next target area we're looking at is the groin. Now again, most of the time in self-defense courses, etc., manuals, the groin is always touted as an area that's going to stop somebody in their tracks. But reality tells us that's not the case. One instructor I trained with for many years, and he'd done 2 tours of Vietnam. In the battlefield, was actually seeing this happen where somebody had been kicked fully in the groin in the middle of some unarmed combat, and they just walked through it. And this goes for other target areas as well, as we've mentioned, the nose, the eyes, etc. They've been attacked many times, and still on the battlefield, these guys have walked on. If we're dealing with life or death situations, their mindset's totally different. So you can't guarantee that the old favourite kick in the groin is going to work. Some people will walk through it. If they're on drugs, for instance, they'll walk through it as well because they won't feel that pain. So it's important that we look at these as secondary targets that will manipulate somebody, maybe possibly disable them, but don't expect them to fall over and not come back fighting. So let's look at, first of all, what that standard kick to the groin. Very difficult to get a kick into the groin when somebody is actually fighting. They're stood because of the posture that they're in. going to make it difficult. And a lot of times you end up kicking on the inside of the leg and not the groin at all. So that favourite kick to the groin from standing is not something that I would particularly recommend or use. The danger also is a person catching your foot and then trying to end up on the floor. So it's more effective, the groin strikes from close range. The first one we're going to deal with, and it's an old one, but it's still a great standby. This was used a lot, particularly again the British commandos in World War I and II used this strike in conjunction with a palm heel to great effect. It's that rising knee to the groin. So we've got to be really close to hit this target area. I need to be in this grappling range to bring that knee up. Okay? Most times, again, the knee is thrown out of range. Here, there's no strike, and it's a danger. You'll get taken down. The strike needs to come in from this range here, right up underneath. So we're not only hitting the groin, we're trying to hit the pubic bone, which comes right the way up. And you're going to make his teeth rattle at the same time. So up, which allows you then the strikes that we looked at earlier on. Okay, just going to make around to another angle here to show the strike. So we're up close. We need to be this close for the strike to be effective. Coming right up between the legs and driving in. And then that gives you the opportunity if you want to follow up with a heavier strike. Also from close quarter, if we're grappling, is to grab and seize the groin. Now, depending on really on what that person's wearing, this is the difference. If somebody was wearing tight jeans or trousers, the groin grab isn't effective. We'd use a strike, which we'll look at in a moment. But with baggy trousers, you can attack the groin and seize the testicles. We're going to come right up underneath, hit the back, seize and pull. So I get complete control of him here, so that I can actually manipulate and drive him out of the way with the groin grab. Okay? So we come in and seize hold of the groin, grab, twist and lift. This will control and push him away if you need to do so, or follow up with another strike. This can also be done from the back here. If we're seized, is to come back and grab hold of the groin. From this position, either I'm going to lift or I'm going to pull down here. So rather than just squeezing alone, we're going to lift. We're going to rip back and lift, or we're going to pull down this way, and that increases the effect of the groin grab. If I can manipulate my way behind this position, then coming up through the legs and seizing the groin is another great way of taking somebody down or disabling them. Once more, I would pull backwards here, which lifts their body up completely. Well, I mentioned if the person was wearing tight trousers, grabbing the groin is not an option, and we need to realise these things when you're in the midst of combat. So in this case, we strike the groin. I'm going to use the top of my fist here. This is the top fist strike. It's not like the hammer fist, which was the base. This is the top. So again, in close, we drive upwards and punch the blow in and up underneath the testicles. So from here, we're grappling. The arm is straight, and in it comes. Again, this is a great effective strike. Gets a man to pull his hips away, which may then allow you one of those shots coming up the middle here. So the top fist is a good way to attack the groin. If you're on a different level to that person, maybe you've been pulled down and you're fighting from your knees, then again we can use a straight punch straight into the groin. Like an uppercut, and bang, hits that target area. Or we can use your forearm straight up the middle and hitting the groin in an upward fashion once more. So if we find ourselves on these two different levels, then we can drive that straight uppercut punch into the groin, or your forearm rising up the middle and through. This strike can also be done from the back. Here, there's a great way once more of attacking somebody and taking them to the floor, which again would have been priority sometimes in military, where they're going to take somebody down from behind and finish them quickly. So the groin strike allows you to take down. So those are the most effective ways of attacking the groin if you're on the floor, kneeling down, and if the person has got tight trousers where you can't actually seize the groin, but you can strike it with a fist or top fist, and that will do the job. Alright, we're moving on to some more secondary targets, but these are not as major as the last group that we've looked at. Sometimes there may only be one or two ways of attacking these areas, so this is why I've kept them second as we go through the list. Now this time, these areas once more will set up a further strike, or they can disable or manipulate. So we're back up the top here. The first area we're going to look at is the collarbones. And the collarbones are one of the weakest bones on the body. Very, very easy to break the collarbone. If you fell on an outstretched arm, there's a likelihood that the collarbone will fracture. So when we look to hit any of the bones on the body, this is the major one that we're going to use. And this is a disabling strike. And we're going to use the hammer fist. I'm going to come across the body and drive down and into the collarbone itself. And then run here, just below the neckline. On some people they're more prominent than others, but we're hitting downwards, so we splinter that bone down. And if we hit it and break the collarbone, effectively that arm is out of commission. That side of the shoulder will drop, and they no longer can use that arm effectively. So it's a good way of disabling somebody and maybe stopping them from continuing fighting. So we move across and drive down. I'm sinking my whole body weight down, so I've got all my power driving in. I'm imagining my fist is going to end up down its stomach level. So if we want to hit this area and make it effective, it's no good tapping and retracting the strike. It needs to go straight down through it so that you break that bone. If you manipulated the arm at the same time and twisted that around, then you've effectively taken that shoulder right out of commission and you're in for that shin kick that we used earlier on. That's just a sort of an example of how you can take this a stage further. Okay. The next area coming down from the sternum, which is the breastbone, just below this is the solar plexus. This area again is quite vulnerable to a strike, but it needs to be certain types of strikes. Now, if somebody is wearing heavy clothing, and again in military they will have had camouflage jackets, they may have had webbing on, then striking to the body wasn't going to be effective. So although stood here Jake now wearing a vest where the body is uncovered, I could throw in a strike here and probably have some effect. But reality says you could be hitting and not touching anything at all. If this person was heavily padded, you'd just be wasting your time hitting those target areas. So if we want to make sure that we can attack the body and get an effect straight away, then we're going to use the knees to drive into that solar plexus area. So once I get hold of the head, then I'm driving the point of my knee straight into the body. And you're going to find this has much more effect on the person, even if they're wearing heavy clothing. Now if we throw a knee strike, we've got to be careful that you don't throw too many. Otherwise, if that person's still fighting you, they'll grab your leg. So it's preferable to throw one or two big strikes and then move to something else. So from here, one, two, then I would move off and maybe look to follow in with something else. Otherwise, if I keep throwing these strikes, he will grab my leg and he'll lift me and take me to the floor. So we grab hold, one, two, disengaged, and look to finish it with something else. And that's the most effective way from the front. You need to get a hold of something, whether it's the hair, whether it's the ears, whether it's the collar, or just to clamp your hands around in a palm-to-palm grip here and squeeze your forearms against his neck. This will set you up then to drive the strikes in and forward. You see the position of the knee is forward, my hip is forward and the point of the knee is coming in. Different to the groin strike which was up. This one now thrusts through the target area, making sure that you've got your full body weight behind it when you strike. Alright, still with the solar plexus, one other way that we can attack this. This is from the back once more. I'm going to use the point and tip of the elbow. The reason this is so effective is the small tip of the elbow will find its way through into the target. So even if they're wearing heavy clothing, the tip of the elbow is like a spear. It will find its way through and into the body. Again, giving you the chance to make an escape or disable the person. You throw these as many as you can. If they're still hanging on, then drive them back as much power as you can. Keep this as straight to your body as possible so that the tip of the elbow just comes back. Just like a trip hammer, going to hit the body, bang, bang, bang. So get yourself out. Obviously you can combine this with the groin striking that we spoke about earlier on. Okay, and they're good methods of getting out if somebody grabs you from the back. Alright, we're looking at some target areas from the back now. If I turn Jake around. Earlier on we looked at attacking the base of the skull. Now we're going to come down the vertebrae of the back between the shoulder blades. This area is called the thoracic vertebrae. If you strike directly between the shoulder blades, it has an effect on the lungs and the breathing. And this target area was used in World War I, World War II. Marines and commandos were using this target area to hit with a butt of a rifle. This would silence somebody and put them down to the floor so they couldn't cry out, and then they would administer a killing stroke. So this target area, even hit with bare-handed techniques, can have a profound effect on the person and certainly manipulate them or stun them. The best way to hit this target area is when the person is bent over. It just means that the spine is curved up higher and it's more pronounced. So from here, you're going to drop the tip of your elbow down and through the target area. Now just by putting the tip of my elbow in this area here on Jade's back, if I ask him to stand up for me, he doesn't really want to come up because it's really painful. So it's a good area just to control somebody with. So if it's painful enough to hold in there at the tip of my elbow, then if you imagine this driving down and through the back, it's going to finish the person and bring them down to the floor, where then it's easier to finish them off. If they're on the floor and face down, then dropping your knee in between the shoulder blades is a quick finish again to set them up for something else. So we looked at the knee drop to the neck earlier on. If the person's face down, between the shoulder blades is a good target area to drop your knee, or indeed the heel of your boot to make sure the person doesn't get up again. Alright, still looking at the back. Take the person round. Two other target areas we're going to look at on the back. The kidneys, which are right at the base of the spine there, either side of really your belt line. To attack the kidneys, we're going to come in an upward fashion. Once again, this is a favoured method for a sensory removal, where they would strike the kidney or maybe use this as a knife attack. If you hit the kidney hard enough, again, it catches the breath in the person's body. They can't scream out from it. The pain is quite sickening, and they arch their back, which makes it easy then to come in and finish with a choke. So from this position, I'm going to use an uppercut punch. I'm going to drop my weight, level drop, and drive upwards through the target area. So we never hit into the kidney, it's always going to be upwards, so we jam the kidney upwards into the body. So it squeezes it shut. If you can imagine the kidneys are full of blood, then it's just like squeezing a balloon full of water. You're hitting it upwards. So we come down, a couple of rapid attacks can set you up for the big finisher on the base of the skull. Okay? Alright, another target area we're looking at is right at the base of the spine. It's a coccyx, it's your tailbone, and it sits below the buttocks. To get this strike in, we need to be really up close, and you use that rising knee again here, which jams the base of the tailbone and spine, which really makes it difficult for the person to walk effectively if you bruise this target area. So once we've got behind, we're driving this up. If the person was placed against a wall and jammed against it, this is a good finishing shot to disable them, to bring them down to the floor. So nice and close and right up underneath the tailbone, and that jars the lower spine and gives you that disabling shot that we're looking at. Alright, we're moving on now to look at some of the extremities of the body, and this is the arms and the legs. Again, like I mentioned earlier on, striking the arms and the legs are not going to stop somebody in their tracks, but may cause enough pain to disable them long enough for you to make your getaway or to follow it up and finish. So we're looking to take the foundations of the body away. We're going to look at some methods of attacking the legs effectively. And remember, we're always thinking of using these when we've got boots or shoes on. And we just want to disable that person and set them up for something else. So from the front of the body here, we're looking at attacking the kneecaps and the shins. These areas have got no protective muscle and they're very vulnerable. Simply the knee joint is going to move in one direction and one direction only, and that's coming forward. Coming back the other way, it doesn't bend too far. So we're going to look at a couple of kicks that hit that knee joint straight away and take the person down. The first one I'm going to use is with the heel of my foot, and it strikes across this way. Okay? Comes across the body, and the heel drives through and down into the knee. This way, across. So it's a fast strike. It can be delivered without showing it. So if we're in the middle of fighting, and this will drive it in, and you can follow through for the finish. So you don't chamber or cock your leg in any fashion. You just literally drive it out and smash them down. Now, we spoke about the groin strike earlier on. It's not very often there. If you open it up off the knee, then it is there, yes, okay? But that's only as a setup to something else. But the main priority is to come across and stamp down onto the knee joint. Even from close range and grappling, this strike can be used to open up the legs and maybe expose the groin for the knee. So we come up and drive it across, opening up the body, which allows you the groin shot coming in. One more time. Open up, drive through for the finish. Alright, moving down from the knees now, we're going to look at attacking the shins. Now again, this is a painful strike. Like I said, don't expect somebody to fall to the floor from it, but it will certainly give you room and space if you need to follow it up. So the same type of attack. This time I'm going to sweep my foot across, just as if I was side footing a football. It's as simple as that, using the broad side of your boot or shoe. Drive it in, it brings the head forward, and then you can follow up. So if the person is bigger than you, you're always going to start looking to attack those lower gates. Take away the foundations first, and then open them up for those bigger strikes, so that you can equalise things. This can be done once more from inside grappling, kicking the shin to open up their posture, to again give you bigger strikes if you want to follow them through. Also coming down to attack and stamp on the instep is an effective move. Boots on, driving down through. And if we can hit the instep where laces are crossed over, then we hit that target area, the laces bite into the bone on top of the foot and make this even more painful. So that's where we're looking, right on top of the instep bone there, driving it down. This can be attacked from the front. In this fashion, even if a person is drove against a wall, we can stamp down and attack this fashion here. Also from the back, conventional stamping still works well. Still a good tried and tested technique to open them up and then come back with your heavier strikes. We look at the back of the knee now. Remember we said the joint only goes one way, but you can collapse the leg by attacking the back of the knee hock here. It's a cluster of nerves. When you strike it, it involuntarily bends the knee forward. And from this position, I'll turn you around, just bring the leg back. Striking down through here will collapse the person. Now either they'll go onto their back or they'll go forward onto their knee. If I drive them down forward onto their knee, then their knee smashes into the floor and you're stood on the back of that leg where you're hitting that cluster of nerves. And then you can follow down with your other strikes. It's a really good way of controlling. Or we can use it to take the person backwards and away. So now they're more vulnerable to some of those bigger, powerful strikes that we used earlier on. It's the knee hop we're looking for. Good way of taking down a bigger person and bringing them to the floor. If they're on their stomach on the floor, a disabling shot to the leg is in the sciatic nerve that runs from the buttock down the middle of the thigh. If I just drive my knuckle into that area, you can see the leg flinch here. A shot to make sure they won't get up again is to stamp straight down into the middle of the muscle, and that will disable the leg long enough for you to make your getaway. Once the person's down there, stamping down through is an effective way of taking out the legs. Alright, again sticking with the legs just for a moment, we're looking at a different target area. This time we're hitting the muscle of the leg rather than the bone itself. We're going to hit the outside of the thigh, and we're going to attack what's called the peroneal nerve. It's a deep nerve within that large thigh muscle. Lots of different ways of effectively doing this. From close range, driving your knee straight into the middle of the will bruise the muscle and tighten that muscle up so that the leg immediately becomes dead. This is where that old saying of the dead leg come into play, and this is what you're doing, you're hitting the muscle. So anywhere that we're in close and the leg is available, we drive the knee into that muscle, and that deadens the leg long enough for you to follow up if you need to do so. Also, it can be used with a kick, and we're going to use the shin bone to hit that muscle. We're going to step across and drive the shin through. Now, this kick doesn't have to be anything picture perfect. All you're going to do is swing the leg like you would swing a bat. Bring it up and swing it into the target area. So military kicks were really short, sharp, and they weren't too worried about the form of them or how they looked. If they'd done the job, that was what they were looking to do. So this kick swings through and into the target area, taking out the leg. So every kick that I've shown you is done from reasonably close range and without lifting or chambering the legs that you see in sort of traditional martial arts, which in reality won't work for you because the person will just grab your leg and take you to the floor. These kicks are shorter, sharper, and they're not telegraphed. So the one to the knee, the one to the shin, this one to the peroneal nerve in the leg, they all come from non-telegraphic movements, which you've got a much better chance of them working for you. Alright, we're looking at the upper extremities, the arms this time. Now, we've done quite extensive work on my joint breaking DVD, which you can get through NAP or indeed myself. So what we're going to do is keep this brief, but look at target areas for striking more so than locking. So, going to look at a couple of ideas. If this man pulls or grabs down my wrist and pulls it down and gets hold of it, the first target area I'm going to use is my knuckles, which again are the four knuckles, the wrapping knuckles. I'm going to strike them down straight onto the back of the hand and the small bones. But when somebody grips you really tight, these small bones stand up because the skin is torn. So when you drop that four knuckle strike down, immediately that pain makes a release, giving you the chance to follow up if you need to do so. Okay, so we look at that again. So it doesn't matter which way the wrist is grabbed, whether it's this over grip or it's a more standard grip, hit anywhere it's available. In this case, you see the thumb is more vulnerable, and you would strike down onto the bone of the thumb to make this work. Heavy strike using the four knuckles, driving down, maybe kicking the shin and following up again if you needed to do so. Again, for moving up the arm, we're going to look at a couple of strikes to the muscles. Now once more, if somebody is wearing heavy clothing, then these are not going to be effective. They're only going to be effective in this situation here where I can see the arm and hit it. So I'm going to use the knife edge of my hand. The first target area is this mound on the forearm here, and there's a cluster of nerves in there which is quite sensitive. If I drive my knife hand down through that target area, it momentarily sounds like a pins and needles feeding up the arm. Now if that's enough to make the break and get away, that's great. Otherwise it will set me up for the bigger strikes again. Also the top of the bicep. If we push in and split the bicep in the middle there of my thumb, then this knife hand strike will drive into that target area and again bruise the muscle. So it's not any sort of magical thing going on here. Basically, you're bruising the muscle by hitting it hard. So it wouldn't matter what you hit it with, it would still hurt. In this case, I'm using that knife hand strike. It could be your forearm, but we're just going to drive it through that muscle and break the grip away straight away. And finally on the arm is the elbow joint. We're just going to look at just one simple method of hitting the joint and breaking it. Whenever that arm is stretched out, it's to drive your forearm through it. So whether this is an arm or if it's against a weapon, as soon as the arm is straightened, then you drive your forearm up the middle. It's the simplest way to dislocate or break the elbow rather than getting into anything too complex. So once more, if the arm is straightened out, then you get a chance to bring the forearm up, short, sharp, and straight through to make the break and possibly disarm a weapon. And those are the major targets on the arms that are going to have some sort of effect. Alright, this next little section of secondary targets are major pressure points or sensitive spots on the body. It's got a high percentage chance of working. Now there's a lot of information about pressure point striking and the effects of it, etc. Once more, from my own experience and the people that I've trained with within the field where they've had to use these things, there's really only a handful that you could trust to have an immediate effect on somebody. And these are the ones that we're dealing with today. Things that you can remember and use yourself without having to have any type of skilled training to do so. Starting from the top, we're going to look at sensitive spots on the head. These are the areas that hurt most because they're linked closely to the brain. So it's simple knowledge to be able to look at that and understand what's happening. So we've looked at this target area earlier on when we struck it. We're going to use a grinding pressure here now to get a release. So if I've been grabbed from the front here, just grinding those knuckles into the temples will have immediate effect. Very, very painful, high percentage chance of this working. Use this technique a lot of times and I found very few people that can actually still hold on to you once that target area has been hit. So we come into the temple using those four knuckles, we push in and we grind them, and this opens the man up and allows you control. The next target area is underneath that earlobe. This is called the mastoid point. It's a cluster of nerves. If you push your thumb into it, it gets an immediate effect straight away. So if we're grabbed or in close quarter combat, then the thumb will drive through that target area and give you the release. The next one is the base of the nose, the philtrum. We looked at it earlier on when we'd done that nose bar. Same thing, and rather than striking the nose, if I push the heel of my hand up under it, it will control the man's head and manipulate them. So I can use the heel of my hand, and I could use my thumb, and this pushes the head back and opens him up for other strikes. So this is again a high percentage chance of this working. The reason being here that we can control the whole head. If I push under Tom's chin and he tenses his head, it's quite difficult to push that chin up. If I go to this sensitive target area and ask him to push down on it, straight away it works. And that's what makes this so effective. You don't need a lot of strength to be able to make this work, and it will get you out of a hold or a grasp straight away. Also, pushing the heel of your hand down on the nose and squashing it works really well. Okay, painful, makes the eyes water, and got immediate effect. So I'm dropping the heel of my hand onto the nose, but rather than striking, I'm grinding and squashing downwards, and this will break the grip for you. Alright, still concentrating on this target area. Another way that we can control the nose when it's painful is coming from the back once more, and I'm going to hook the nostrils, ripping back. This controls the head totally, and the fingers will go right the way up. We can close it over so that we can grip hard on the nose and pull somebody away. So it's a great controlling method of bringing somebody away from somebody else, breaking up a situation or a fight, and leading somebody away. Okay, so that's the hook underneath the nose there. Well, we're looking at hooking in different areas of the face and head. Another one is just it's a fish hook, and this is onto the inside of the mouth. When you do this, you're going to claw back the cheekbone until you get your finger inside, and then we can rip away. This is again a really dangerous technique and can be used in a multitude of situations. It can be done from this position here, where we use the fingers. Again, from the front, if you get both your thumbs through there, we can open out the mouth with both thumbs in. They're not near the teeth, they're near the side of the cheek, so you're not in danger of being bit. And if you actually pinch and squeeze the cheek, it's even worse. Really, really painful technique. But sometimes being able to escape from holds or grabs, you can get this technique on. So if he's grabbed my head in like a side headlock and pulled this, I can claw him open and get into the techniques that we practiced earlier on. Okay, and that comes on really, really effectively. So that's fish hook in the mouth. It's a dangerous technique, but very effective. Alright, moving on again. Once more, we're looking at these sort of high percentage nerve points that will get an immediate effect. We're coming down to the neck area now. Now, if I turn the head to the side, we see this large branch of muscle here. This is called the sternomastoid muscle, and it's got a cluster of nerves in. If we grip this in a certain fashion, you can control somebody straight away. Now, the way I'm going to grip this is put my thumb knuckle in between the windpipe and that muscle on the neck. And you can see it part and split there. If I just use my finger a minute, you can see where I'm going. My hand will come round and I will grip it and squeeze it shut and bring it down to the floor. And if I sort of ask Jake to resist that for me and maybe try and fight back and hold it, and I find that we've got that control straight away. It's a painful target. So anytime the neck's exposed, we can come in and attack it and pinch it and bring it down to the floor. We've looked a moment ago at this area. Again, it's worth looking at as a manipulating point. If you can get your fingers in there, you can drive somebody downwards and to the floor. And it's always available. You get yourself out if you've been gripped or held, and you can push into this target area and you can immediately break the grip and bring somebody to the floor. So those are two really good pressure points on the neck area that's got a good high percentage chance of working for you. One more in this particular area is underneath the jawline. This is the facial artery, and we're coming up underneath the soft palate of the jaw with my thumb and driving inwards. This is a really sensitive area. It can be attacked from the front with the thumb or from the back with the fingers, and they will slip underneath the jawline into the soft palate and drive in and attack those nerves. And you can see they have immediate effect. So even when somebody is in the middle of combat and they're fighting, you can still use these target areas to break it up and give yourself a chance to strike. So if we were grappling sort of here and we were both really working hard, you can push that area and you see it opens him up into a follow-up strike. So they are difficult to resist. They will be painful enough, even when somebody really wants to fight you, to still manipulate them around. And that's what we want. We want to find target areas that will work for you under pressure. And those are some major ones on the head and neck. Now, moving down the body, we're going to look at just some miscellaneous techniques here. A lot of these involve grabbing or twisting the skin. Now, like I said, if somebody is clothed, then these techniques are not going to be an option. But if we've got situations like this, where you can grab hold of the flesh, then you can manipulate people with pain. So, let's just look at a couple of them. The first area that I'm going to attack here is the tricep muscle itself. Now, I'm just going to pinch this between my knuckle and my forethumb, okay, and grab it. Now, the flesh on the back of the tricep is quite sensitive. The higher you go up, the more sensitive it is away from the elbow joint. But I'm not pinching it in this fashion with my finger and thumb. If that was the case, Jake would be able to pull his arm free from there. Now, if I lock this on with my thumb and ask Jake to pull his arm free, he's stretching his own skin, and that makes it really painful. So it's quite easy to manipulate or move somebody. It looks like you're walking them and just holding onto their arm, but you could actually be pinching their flesh as you're doing it. Another way is to escaping. If somebody grabs you, say, by the shirt front, it's to pinch on the back of their triceps, and automatically it opens them up for the bigger strikes that we've done earlier on today. So Again, if somebody's messing around and maybe they might not be in full sort of fighting combat mode, you can manipulate somebody with them. They will also be used as part and parcel of a technique if you want to follow it up with some heavier strikes. So pinching onto the triceps is really painful. Another area that is vulnerable is on the inner thigh, and pinching this area can get you out of a lot of problems. So if I'm stuck in a side headlock, just pinching on that flesh high up on the thigh, lift his leg. You can see his leg lifted, which may give you the chance to lift him and get down to the floor and finish it. Also, we can come this way in. So we grab the flesh from the inside, lifting the leg up again and allowing me to take him down to the floor. So tricep flesh, inside of the thigh, they work really well. From this angle, if Jake just grabs me, we can come down to the kidneys and we can come to the shoulder blades, and this is stretching the flesh on both parts of this area. So if you've got somebody who's got a high percentage of body fat, then you're in for some fun here, because you can't really miss these target areas and you will stretch them. So I'm going to take it, twist, stretch and pull the flesh, which allows you to be able to take somebody down to the floor. Again, these are unusual techniques, really painful. You can do this straight off the kidneys and twist the flesh on the kidneys as well, and allows you to be able to take somebody down to the floor and manipulate them. So grabbing the flesh is part and parcel of any grappling where you haven't got jackets on. And these are natural handles on the body that you can grip hold of and be able to manipulate. So don't expect people to fall over from them like a sort of Dr. Spock death grip. You know, these are things that will manipulate and hurt enough for you to get away or to follow in and strike. Now I think one other area that we should address while we're in this, and that is biting techniques and how that can disable and manipulate people. Basically, anywhere that you can bite is going to have an effect. Now, in close quarter combat, where you're up really, really close, the opportunity to use biting is there. It's an extreme form of fighting, but it's a lifesaver, it may be necessary. So if we're clinched in and grabbing, then to be able to bite onto the ears or the face is available. If his head comes up, you can straight away bite the nose. So these target areas are always here. Any type of grappling. If his hand's on my head, just biting the arm is enough to give me room to follow in with technique. Anytime that hand is pushing on the face or a head, is to bite into the hand or the fingers. So wherever that hand is, if it's around the mouth, biting in will open him up and give you the opportunity to escape. From being grabbed in a side headlock and pulled in, if you just bite on the pec muscle there, then he'll let go of you straight away. So if he wants to crush your head against the chest, then that bite will open him up and allow you to get your way out. So biting is an effective release from lots and lots of holds and grabs, and it should be part and parcel of your disabling and manipulating techniques. And if you bring that in with everything else, you've got a good support system to back up the major target areas and strikes that we looked at earlier on.